Hi everyone, Dr. Crahay here. In this video lecture I'll be discussing Chapter 1, Introduction to Statistics, which also includes a bit of a research methods review. To start, we really have to consider, what is statistics? What are we doing here in this course? What can we use statistics for? What do we need to know about statistics? All of those kinds of things. So here your textbook author gives definition of statistics, mathematical procedures used to summarize, analyze, and interpret observations. And then he also gives the definition of data, and numbers assigned to observations according to rules called scores or raw scores. So just to elaborate on those things a little bit, statistics are really a decision-making tool. That's all they are. So, you have a research question, you have a research idea, you go out into the world, you collect data from 100 people, 200 people, 500,000 people in some of the bigger studies. How can you really summarize all of the information from those people? That's where statistics comes in, right? So statistics gives us, one number, a couple of numbers to describe large groups of people. It also brings in some probabilities so that we can decide, how much faith should I have in these numbers? How confident should I be in these results? So that's really what statistics as a field is. In this course, we're going to focus on interpreting those numbers. So if someone tells you that a t-test is statistically significant at p is less than 0.001 and Cohen's d equals 0.5, what do all of those things mean? By the end of this course, hopefully you'll understand that. Let's see what else. There will be some math, so some statistics courses teach this as a straightforward math class. I'm not going to do that to you. We'll do some math to reinforce what's going on in a particular statistical test, but the emphasis will definitely be, how do I interpret this data? What is the strength of this test? What's a weakness? And then how can I use it? What things should I be aware of as I'm reading research? And then my comments on this data idea, those are just the numbers that we collect. So if you took research methods with me, you are very familiar with data and probably dreading working with data again. I think you either love it or hate it. Most of us hate it, unfortunately. But anyway, when you collect data from people, so maybe you send out a survey and you ask them to rate on a scale of 1 to 7 how happy they are. So they give you a score of 5. So that's their data, that's their raw score. So we'll be working a lot with data this semester. So this slide gives us an overview of the research process. Hopefully you can see it in this slide. If you can't, it is on page 5 of your textbook if you have the second edition. It's on page 5, so if you want to pause real quick and pull that up, you're welcome to do that. But basically in the the research world, what we'll do is we start by asking a question, right? So maybe we want to know, I don't know, what motivates students in online classes, or what are barriers to students completing online classes. So we have a research question. The next thing we'll do is we'll set up a research study surrounding that question. So, we might just develop a survey and ask students, what do you view as the barriers to completing an online course? And we ask, a couple hundred students those questions. And step 3, we'll do that. So you set up the research study in step 2. So you decide, okay, these are the questions that I'm going to ask them. I'm going to do it through a survey. I'm going to put it up on a survey hosting site like SurveyMonkey, those kinds of things. In the third step there in the lower right, we're going to measure that behavior. So we're actually going to send that survey out. And then in step 4, we'll evaluate the findings. So this course, Intro to Statistical Techniques, is really about step 4, evaluating those findings. So you have conducted the study, and then you are looking at a data set and you go, oh, how do I really evaluate this information? Steps 1 through 3 in my research methods classes, we cover those in depth. And then in step 4, that's the entire purpose of this course. If you haven't taken research methods, of course, my preference is that you have taken it. So you're really in the best shape if you have taken that course before. If you haven't, minimally make sure that you are familiar with APA style, because we will be writing up APA style papers, and we won't have the time to devote to learning that style. So either know that you have that, or commit to that extra bit of work, and I think you'll do just fine in the course. So there are different kinds of statistics. We have descriptive statistics and inferential statistics as kind of the two umbrella terms. We'll start out the class with descriptive statistics, and then we will transition into inferential statistics. So you've probably heard about hypothesis testing a little bit. You've probably heard about p-values a little bit. All of that stuff will come into play when we start talking about inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics, I think, are a little bit more straightforward, easier to understand. They do exactly what they sound like they're doing. They describe, right? So if we have conducted a study and we want to know how many females were in that study, we're going to use a descriptive statistic to report that information. If we want to know what percentage of people are seniors in this class, that would be a descriptive statistic. So those kinds of things, frequencies, percentages, all of those kinds of things are descriptive statistics. They're pretty straightforward. They allow for clear presentation of data summary. So that's where you get all of the really pretty tables, the graphs. You can get one single value, so 55% of the class is female, those kinds of things. Those are all descriptive statistics. Inferential statistics, on the other hand, are a little bit more complicated because you start to deal with probability. So what you're doing with inferential statistics is you have a small group of people called a sample. We'll actually talk about this on the next slide. And you want to infer to a larger group of people called the population. So you're allowed to make conclusions from a smaller set of data than the actual population. So you're inferring. So descriptive statistics describe, inferential statistics infer. So you're going from a small group kind of generalizing to a large group. Again, if you've taken research methods, you'll remember when we talked about generalizability, right? So that's a big issue with statistics and sample and population selection. So we'll discuss that more in the next slide. Typically in the social sciences, what you'll be dealing with is a sample of data rather than a population. So one common thing that you probably hear about in the news media, particularly this time of year in the fall, with the 2016 elections coming up, are these presidential polls. And so they might say, I keep seeing things like, a large number of participants, or not participants, Americans endorse Trump for president or something like that. So you might have asked yourself, who did they ask? Who did they poll? Who are these people that are supporting Trump? Did they ask you? If they didn't ask you, how can they say that a percentage of Americans support this particular person, right? So the population of interest in this situation would be every single voter eligible citizen in the country, right? So everyone that's above 18 and able to vote would be your population. The reality of it is that it would cost way too much money. It would take entirely too much time to go around and ask every single person who they will be voting for. So what they'll do is they'll take a sample from that population. So they'll choose a smaller set of people, I don't know, maybe 100,000 people, and they'll just go out and ask them, who are you planning to vote for? And that's how they get those kinds of numbers without asking everyone. So the population is the big group. It's the entire group that you're interested in. The sample is what you choose to kind of represent that larger group. So there are a lot of issues involved in choosing your sample. I'm not going to go into those in depth, but do make sure that you read your textbook. If you have questions, also feel free to reach out.